Good morning, everyone. In today's lecture, we will look at malignancies of hematopoietic systems, which will include multiple myeloma, lymphoma, leukemia. Hematopoietic stem cells are pluripotent cells which give rise to different blood cells. Mainly, it divides into the lymphocyte precursors and the myeloid precursors. The lymphocyte precursors are responsible for differentiating and formation of T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. The myeloid precursors they differentiate into different types of blood cells such as erythrocytes, megakaryocyte, platelets, basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils, and monocytes. Lymphocytes are one of the main types of white blood cells in the immune system and include T cells and B cells. Lymphocytes are seen in many areas of the body such as lymph nodes, the bone marrow, the intestine, and the bloodstream. When B cell responds to an infection, they mature and change into plasma cells. Plasma cells make the antibodies, also called immunoglobulins, that help the body attack and kill germs. Plasma cells are found mainly in the bone marrow. In addition to plasma cells, normal bone marrow is also home to other blood cells such as red cells, white cells, and platelets. Multiple myeloma is a malignant disease of plasma cells. Normal plasma cells are found in the bone marrow and comprises of less than 5% of the total cell count and are an important part of the immune system. Plasma cells make the antibodies that help the body attack and kill germs. In multiple myeloma, the plasma cells become cancerous and grows out of control. The plasma cells make abnormal proteins which are called as monoclonal antibodies and also produces light chains which are called as paraproteins. Let us now look at the pathophysiology of multiple myeloma. As we know, within bone, there are osteoblasts and osteoclastic cells. Osteoblasts are responsible for building up of bone. Osteoclasts are responsible for breaking down of bone. Interestingly, the osteoclast activity is regulated by the osteoblast with the expression of rank L, which attaches to the rank on the osteoclast and increases the osteoclastic activity. Another cell within the bone marrow is the bone marrow stromal cell, which regulates the hematopoiesis process. These multiple myeloma cells they adheres with the bone marrow stromal cells and they induce a cytokine mediated cell growth and thus increases the production of multiple myeloma cells within the bone marrow. As these cells increases in number, they start releasing interleukin 3 which inhibits the differentiation of osteoblast progenitor cells into osteoblasts. They also release the DKK1 which inhibits the osteoclastic activity regulation which is done by the osteoblast cells, and they express rank L and MIP1 alpha which increases the osteoclast activity. With the help of all these mechanisms, the osteoclastic activity is increased with the release of hydrochloric acid and consequently release of calcium from the bone into the plasma and blood. So this explains the reason why we get osteolytic lesions in multiple myeloma. It also explains why we get hypercalcemia in multiple myeloma. Looking further, these multiple myeloma cells also releases paraproteins or light chains which are released into the blood. Now these light chains they are so small in size, they are easily filtered through the glomerulus, and as they enter into the renal system they can lead to renal insufficiency in 20 to 30% of cases. These light chains when they are released into the urine they are called as Bence-Jones proteins, which is another characteristic clinical feature of multiple myeloma. As the multiple myeloma cells adheses with the bone marrow stromal cell, it leads to shift in the hematopoietic stem cells from myeloid precursor to lymphoid precursor in order to increase the production of plasma cells. With the overproduction of plasma cell, it almost clogs up the bone marrow and thus reduces the production of red blood cells and thus leading to decreased release of red blood cells into the plasma and blood, which leads to anemia. Also, due to the renal insufficiency, there is decreased erythropoiesis and erythropoietin production, which further leads to the reduction in the red blood cell count. Apart from anemia, there are the other white blood cell counts are also reduced, which further leads to the increased risk of illness and infection in multiple myeloma patients. For diagnosing multiple myeloma, the CRAB criteria given by International Myeloma Working Group have been used since decades. In CRAB, C stands for hypercalcemia, which means the serum calcium is more than 11.5 milligram per deciliter. R stands for renal insufficiency or dysfunction, which is diagnosed by serum creatinine of more than 2 milligram per deciliter. A stands for anemia, where hemoglobin is less than 10 gram per deciliter, and destructive bone disease such as osteopenia or osteolytic lesions, pathological fractures, and bone pain. As per the International Myeloma Working Group, in order to diagnose multiple myeloma, the monoclonal antibody levels of more than 30 gram per liter, along with more than 10% of plasma cells in the bone marrow, and any one of the features from the CRAB symptoms is required to confirm the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is the third most common hematological malignancy after leukemia and lymphoma. It has a strong predilection for males and older age patients with the age range from 35 to 70 years and mean age of 60 years. The typical presenting feature is of low back pain. This is generally because of the initiation of the lesion in the vertebrae, fatigue, weight loss, fever, bone pain, anemia, amyloidosis, and hypercalcemia are other clinical features which are seen in multiple myeloma. The characteristic Ben-Jones protein is present in the urine, which have been explained in the pathophysiology. Patient with multiple myeloma can manifest soft tissue masses that are extramedullary plasmablastic tumors of the jaws. Consistent with plasma tumor growth in the mandible, initial oral signs of multiple myeloma may involve pain, paresthesia of the inferior alveolar and mental nerves, swelling, tooth mobility, and radiolucent osteolytic lesions. Looking at the radiographic features, the common location, the incidence of jaw involvement has been reported to vary from 2% to 78%, with mandible being the predominant location for multiple myeloma. In the mandible, the posterior body and ramus is the favored location. Maxillary lesions usually appear in posterior sites. The periphery of multiple myeloma lesion is well defined but not corticated. It lacks any sign of bone reaction. The lesions have been described as appearing punched out. However, many may appear as ragged and even infiltrative. Some lesions have an oval or cystic shape. Untreated or aggressive areas of destruction may become confluent, giving the appearance of multilocularity. If the lesion is located in the periapical periodontal ligament space, it may have a border similar to that seen in inflammatory or infectious periapical diseases. Soft tissue lesions have been reported in the jaws and nasopharynx. When visible on radiographs, they appear as smooth bordered soft tissue masses, possibly with underlying bone destruction. No internal structure is radiographically visible. Occasionally, islands of residual bone, yet unaffected by tumor, give the appearance of the presence of new trabecular bone within the mass. Very rarely, the lesions appear radiopaque internally. If a good deal of bone mineral is lost, teeth may appear to be too opaque and may stand out conspicuously from their osteopenic background. Lamina dura and follicles of impacted teeth may lose their typical cortical teeth surrounding bone in a manner analogous to that seen in hyperparathyroidism. The same may be said of the mandibular neurovascular canal, which although usually visible, loses its cortical boundary in whole or in part. These changes are profound when there is associated renal disease. Mandibular lesions may cause thinning of the lower border of mandible or endosteal scalloping. Any cortical boundary may be effaced if lesion involve them. Periosteal reaction is uncommon, but if it is present, takes the form of a single radiopaque line or more rarely a sunray appearance. In differential diagnosis, the most likely disease to be mistaken for multiple myeloma is the radiolucent form of metastatic carcinoma. Knowledge of a prior malignancy in a patient may help differentiate multiple myeloma from metastatic carcinoma. Osteomyelitis, if severe, may yield a radiologic picture similar to that of multiple myeloma. However, a visible cause for it usually exists. In addition, inflammatory lesions and infections in general cause sclerosis in adjacent bone, which multiple myeloma does not. Simple bone cysts may be bilateral in the mandible and therefore may be mistaken for multiple myeloma. They are usually corticated in part and characteristically interdigitate between the roots of the teeth in a much younger population. Generalized radiolucency of the jaws may be caused by hyperparathyroidism but is differentiated on the basis of abnormal blood chemistry. However, Brown's tumors of hyperparathyroidism, if present with generalized radiolucency of the jaws and similar symptoms, can readily be confused with multiple myeloma radiographically. Other metabolic diseases such as Gaucher disease or oxalosis may cause many of the changes similar to multiple myeloma that are observed on dental radiograph. In investigations, blood and urine tests will reveal anemia, increased paraprotein, decreased normal antibodies, hypercalcemia, increased blood urea nitrogen level, increased creatinine level, and Bell-Jones proteins in urine. Bone investigations such as bone marrow biopsies will reveal more than 10% of plasma cells in the bone marrow cells. X-ray will reveal osteopenia, osteolytic or osteoporotic lesions. CT and MRI are useful for lesions from bone and soft tissues. Examination of the bone marrow plays a central role in the diagnosis and management of myeloma. The aspirate generally shows increased number of plasma cells in most of the cases. The morphology of plasma cells ranges from mature normal appearing cells to highly atypical plasmablasts with dispersed chromatin and single prominent nucleolus. Although treatable, multiple myeloma remains incurable in virtually all cases, with a median survival of 3 to 4 years after diagnosis. Although not curative, induction chemotherapy with vincristine, doxorubicin, dexamethasone, followed by hematopoietic stem cell transplant improves the likelihood of a complete response and prolongs disease-free survival and overall survival. To manage focal bone lytic lesions, patients with multiple myeloma frequently requires radiation therapy, surgery, and analgesic medications. Bisphosphonates are specific inhibitors of osteoclastic activity, and monthly intravenous infusion of either zoledronic acid or pamidronate have reduced the skeletal complications among patients with multiple myeloma and are now a mainstay of myeloma therapy. Coming to oral health considerations, osteonecrosis of jaw resulting in symptomatic exposed non-healing areas of the maxilla and mandible is increasingly recognized as a serious complication of long-term intravenous bisphosphonate therapy, primarily with zoledronic acid and pamidronate. Management of osteonecrosis of jaw focuses on maximizing oral health to prevent its occurrence, conservative management with antiseptic mouth rinses and antibiotics, and avoidance of unnecessary invasive dental procedures. Odontogenic infections should be treated aggressively with systemic antibiotics such as amoxicillin and or clindamycin with adequate bone penetration and a wide spectrum of coverage. Another consideration for multiple myeloma patients requiring dental surgery is the risk of hemorrhage. Patients with multiple myeloma and other disorders associated with high titer serum paraproteins can manifest unique hemostatic disorders, predisposing the patient to hemorrhage, especially following surgical procedures. Pre-dental surgery assessment should include radiographic assessment for plasma cell tumors of jaw, CBC, and coagulation studies. Prevention of hemorrhage should be managed by consultation with the patient's hematologist regarding the status of treatment of the underlying disease and, depending on the clinical circumstances, the need for additional therapies that might include plasmapheresis with appropriate factor replacement, desmopressin acetate, fibrinolysis inhibitor, epsom aminocaproic acid, and tranexamic acid.